I waited by the window for 47 minutes before I saw the photo. Not a message, not a call. A photo. There they were in the family group chat, all 17 of them, smiling around the long table at Miller's Grove. My daughter was holding iced tea. My grandson had his arm around his cousin. Everyone looked happy, bright, and already settled. And there, at the end of the table, where I had imagined myself sitting for 3 weeks, was a chair. It was not empty for me. It had a purse on it. I looked down at my hands. I was wearing the pearl bracelet my late husband gave me on our 30th anniversary. I had ironed my blue dress that morning, the one with tiny white flowers near the hem. Beside my front door was a paper bag with 2 gifts inside, a crossword book for my brother and a wooden toy car for my youngest grandson. My son had said he would pick me up at 4:15. At 4:20, I told myself traffic was bad. At 4:30, I checked my phone. At 4:45, I turned off the oven. The casserole I had made was still warm, covered in foil, waiting in the same blue dish I had brought to every reunion since 1988. At 5:02, the picture arrived. Nobody had remembered me. Or maybe that is too gentle. Forgetting can be innocent. This felt like being quietly removed. Messages appeared under the photo. Best reunion yet. So good to have everyone here. Family is everything. I almost typed, "You forgot me." I almost wrote, "I'm still standing here in my dress." But I did not. I placed the phone face down on the kitchen table. Then I took the wooden toy car from the bag and held it in my palm. My husband used to make toy cars when our children were small. He always said a good wheel should roll without begging. That night, I understood him differently. I put the toy back. I ate a small plate of casserole alone. I did not cry. That surprised me. I had cried over smaller things. A broken teacup, a song in the grocery store, the first Christmas after my husband died. But that evening, there was no storm inside me, only a quiet clearing. I washed the blue dish, hung my dress back in the closet, and opened an old green notebook. On the first blank page, I wrote one sentence. Tomorrow, I will not wait by the window. The next morning, I woke before sunrise. For a few seconds, I forgot what had happened. Then the photo returned. The chair, the purse. I made coffee, toasted 2 slices of bread, packed strawberries in a glass container, and wrapped the last piece of lemon cake in wax paper. I put everything in a basket I had not used since my husband and I used to drive to the lake on Sundays. The lake was 15 minutes away. I had not gone there alone in years. At 72, people are very comfortable telling you what is sensible. Mom, don't drive so early. Grandma, just stay home. We'll bring you something next time. Next time is a dangerous phrase when you're older. It can become the place where people store everything they do not want to give you now. The road was almost empty. The sky was pale blue at the edges. When I parked, I sat with both hands on the wheel. Then I laughed. Not because anything was funny, but because I had made it all the way there without asking permission. I carried my basket to a wooden bench near the water. Mist hovered over the lake. I poured coffee into a little travel cup and took out the lemon cake. That was when a man about my age walked by with a fishing pole in one hand and a paper bag in the other. "You waiting for someone?" he asked. I looked at the empty space beside me. For most of my life, I would have said yes, even if I was not. I would have explained. I would have softened the truth. But that morning, with the lake turning silver in front of me, I said, "No, I think I am finished waiting." He smiled as if he understood more than I had said. "That's a good morning to start," he said. His name was Arthur. He had lost his wife 2 years earlier. Every Saturday, he came to the lake with a biscuit sandwich and pretended to fish, though he admitted he rarely caught anything. He sat on the other end of the bench, leaving a respectful space between us. We talked about ordinary things first, the weather, the geese, the price of eggs. Then, because strangers can sometimes be safer witnesses than family, I told him about the reunion. I did not tell it dramatically. I simply told it. When I finished, Arthur looked out at the water and said, "People can love you and still get used to leaving you out. That sentence stayed with me because it was kinder than anger and truer than excuses. The next Saturday I went back. Arthur was already there. He brought an extra biscuit wrapped in a napkin. I brought sliced peaches and 2 paper cups. The Saturday after that, a woman named Marlene joined us. She had seen us laughing and asked if the bench was reserved. I said, "Only for people who have somewhere else they were supposed to be." She sat down immediately. By the 4th week, there were 5 of us. By the 8th week, we had moved to the picnic table under the oak tree because the bench was too small. We called it breakfast at the lake, though none of us had meant to start anything. There was Arthur with his fishing pole, Marlene with cinnamon rolls, George with black coffee in an old thermos, and Evelyn, who always carried extra napkins and never admitted she was lonely. We were not a club. We had no rules. Nobody had to explain why they came. That was the beauty of it. One Saturday, I brought the old photographs I'd prepared for the reunion. I expected everyone to be polite for a few minutes and then change the subject, but they leaned in. Arthur asked about my husband's red car. Marlene wanted to know about my mother's apron. Evelyn asked me to tell the story of the little boy in the sailor suit. So I did. For the first time in a long time, my memories were not clutter. They were not something to hurry through. They were a meal, and someone had pulled up a chair. 3 months after the reunion, my daughter called. Her voice was careful. "Mom," she said, "I need to apologize." She told me there had been confusion that day. My son thought my daughter was picking me up. My daughter thought my son was. Everyone assumed someone else had called me. By the time they realized embarrassment had turned into silence, I listened. Then I said, "I believe it was a mistake, but I need you to understand something. A mistake is what happened that afternoon. The silence afterward was a choice." There was a long pause. Then she whispered, "You're right." I did not say it to punish her. I said it because love cannot grow well in rooms where nobody tells the truth. She asked if she could come by that weekend. The old part of me wanted to say yes immediately, to smooth everything over and become easy again. Instead, I said, "Saturday mornings are not good for me anymore." "Do you have an appointment?" she asked. "Something like that," I said. The following Saturday, she came to the lake with 2 coffees in her hands. She stood near the path, unsure whether she was allowed to approach. For once, I let her be uncertain for a moment. Not cruelly, just honestly. Then I waved. Arthur made room. Marlene offered her half a cinnamon roll. Evelyn handed her a napkin before she even needed one. My daughter looked around the table and said, "I didn't know you had all this." I smiled. Neither did I. And that was the truth. Sometimes a life opens because something else closes. Sometimes the door that hurts you most is also the one that stops you from waiting in the hallway. I still love my family. I still go to birthdays, dinners, and holidays, but I no longer sit by the window with my coat on, waiting to be remembered. If they want me, they know where to find me, and if they forget, I know where to find myself. Last week, my youngest grandson came with me. I gave him the wooden toy car. He rolled it across the picnic table, and Arthur told him, "A good wheel should roll without begging." My grandson looked at me and asked, "Grandma, what does that mean?" I watched the little car move smoothly over the wood. Then I said, "It means love should not have to chase a place at the table." Here's what I learned. Being forgotten by others does not mean your life is over. Sometimes it means you have been invited, quietly and painfully, to remember yourself. You're allowed to stop waiting. You're allowed to make new mornings. You're allowed to build a table where your stories are welcomed. Your comfort matters, and your age is not treated like an apology. Because growing older is not the end of being seen. Sometimes it is the beginning of seeing yourself clearly.